Hello everyone, my name is Nasreen and I am a design team member on downlandscrafts.ie. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to make the Sepia easel card using this owl stamp that you can get on downlandscrafts.ie. So the easel card is one of the easier cards that you can make, and it's sort of on the beginner side of card making. The construction is very simple and effective, and it stands by itself, and that helps that it doesn't blow over in the wind. It's really self-standing like an easel, and it's really easy as it's made from two components, which is the card topper and the card base. I made two cards using this stamp, and the first card I only uploaded pictures as it was pretty simple, but I wanted to show you all the things that you could do with this stamp. So to start, I used a 6x6 pre-made base, which is just a regular white card, and I scored it down the middle using my scorer. If you don't have a scoring tool, you could just use a knife or fold it with a ruler or try and get it accurately. It's important whatever size card you use, it doesn't have to be a 6x6, but just score it down the middle, and you have to score it on the front part of the card. As you can see here, I'm just scoring it at the 3-inch mark so that the card will be in half, but you can use any shape card you like, from rectangle to circle. I've seen this done in so many different styles. So basically you just score down your line and you fold it in half. Here you can see the card that I've made, scored in half using my bone folder. And this will be the base of the card. The second component will be the topper, and that's the part I'm going to be working on now. So I'm going to stamp my image using Stays On jet black ink, and it's very important for whatever coloring medium you use to use an ink and a paper that's going to work with the coloring medium. So I'm just stamping the image on some watercolor paper. Now it's not that easy to stamp on watercolor paper because it's very textured, so make sure your stamp is very juicy before you put it down. It's probably good to use a stamping tool, but I'm just using my acrylic block and a lot of pressure to make sure that I get an even stamp first time round. Because I will be using my watercolor markers, and the paper will go with the markers, and the ink will also work with the markers, and it won't smudge because Stays On is permanent. So I'm just putting a lot of pressure on this image to make sure I get a lovely crisp image. And there you have it. First time it came out perfectly. So I'll just take this image and I'm going to show you how I color it in. Now, because this is a sepia card, I wanted to use muted colors, and I'm only using 4 colors, 2 browns, a yellow and an orange. And I'm using watercolors because I wanted kind of a washed out look. I didn't want anything too bright. So I'm using my stamping block as a palette and just drawing with my markers and picking it up with a water brush and drawing directly onto the card. This will give it sort of like an old-timey look, because I'm going for something that looks sort of like an old postcard. Now this stamp is very versatile and you could use it for many things. It's supposed to be a Halloween-y card, but I decided to use it for something different, and I love the detail in this. Is very cute, but the lines are small, so whatever medium you do use to color, make sure it has a fine tip, because this water brush I'm using has a very fine tip. I do love my watercolor markers, and I have been really into them lately. I use all different kinds of mediums, but I do find these work lovely for me, but I have to use it on watercolor paper, because with regular paper they kind of soak in and you can't move them around. And there's many ways you can use these markers. You can actually draw directly onto the paper, or as I'm doing here, you can pick up the ink from the side. You can even blend these out if you want. My favorite component of this card, or the stamp at least, is this little scarf, because you can do so much with it. You can do different colors for it. You can, what I did at the end was I embellished with a little bit of a gold gel pen, and I colored in the stripes with the gold gel pen. I also added some little diamonds and some little things. I don't want this card to be too bulky because it will have a 3D element, as you will see later, which is very important. Now usually I go for a lot brighter colors, but in this card I'm going for something muted. I wanted to try something different. And this card is fun for beginners or for kids to work on, as there's not too many difficult folds or components. It's just basically the topper and the card. This stamp is available for sale at downloadcrafts.ie. All the links will be in the description below. I recommend you look out their spooky collection. There is also a Facebook page that you can join, which is like a family. We have Design Team Elves. This is actually my first make as a design team member for Downlands Crafts. Now I did go a little bit out the lines that I only looked at while I was editing, but it's not really that important, as you can always fix it up with watercolor. I left the back blank because I just went around the edges very softly. I didn't want to add too much color to this card. I wanted it to correspond with the scrapbook paper that I'm going to be using later on, which you will see in the video. You could use anything to color in this card. You could use pencil crayons, coloring markers, anything you like. I just chose watercolors because I wanted that soft kind of look of a vintage feel. I do recommend, if you're going to be using watercolors, to let the layers dry in between, otherwise they do bleed quite a bit. I did a few takes of these before I got my markers to work perfectly for me. And there you have it. Now I have cut this out into a circle shape, and I have cut out the backing card. Now for the backing card I use an A4 piece of textured paper which has a wood grain on it. Now you could use brown paper, but I didn't have any in my stock, and I just had this piece which I've had for quite a while, and I've cut out 3 pieces, a 6x6, the backing circle, and 3x6, which is going to be the insert of the card. So I'm using my distress ink, and I'm just going over it and giving it kind of a blended look, and I will blend all 3 papers with this distress ink to give it a bit of a wood texture. Now you don't need to go all the way to the center because this is only a matting card. As you can see, the center will be put on that, and once again this is also just a matting card. This just adds an extra layer to your card. If you feel your card is lacking and you've done a beautiful topper but it's not popping for you, then just use layering and matting, which means adding different papers in different layers to give it the effect that you want. Now this is going to be visible, so I did color in or blend in the whole thing because I'm not going to be using this as a matting card. It will be a base card for my sentiment. Now I just went around the edges just to make it look a little bit old and weathered and vintage, and then it can blend in better with the backing card, and then you don't get this white stripe. Now it did blend in a bit too much, so I used a gold pen around the edges, but you could do what you like. As you can see, these are my 3 components, and I'm going to be putting the card together. Now here is the base card again. As you can see, this will be the first layer, which is my topper, and then I'll be using this scrapbook paper, and this was my inspiration for the card. Now as you can see, it's also 6x6, so I will have to cut it down to size so that you can see the back of the base through. Taking my scoring board or my trim board, I'm just going to cut maybe about 3/4 to half an inch off the edges. You don't need to be precise with this. This is just so that you can see the back of the card, and keep these papers as you will be using them again later. We don't want to waste anything. Now I have my paper, and I'm using a fancy punch on the edges. Now you could go all the way around, but I just want to put it on the top just for something different. And this card will go on top like this, and I will fix it using some tape runner. As you can see, I'm using my tape runner. You can use any type of adhesive, double-sided tape, glue stick, but I just want to make sure that it sticks really good. I want to fix that it's not going anywhere. So I just run my tape runner around the edges and place it with the 2 edges meeting up so that I get both sides of the punched edges lining up. Now I did add a green ribbon around it to just give a little bit of extra color. And here you can see I've cut out from mint green paper my sentiment, or you can stamp whatever you like, just so that you have a greeting on it or something to say what kind of a card this is. This is just a general greeting card that I will be using to send to a friend of mine. the mint paper that I use to cut out will just correspond with the colored ribbon that I use, just to add a little bit of color. Otherwise this card is going to be too many browns. And you can see there's a strip of paper that I've affixed to the top so that it corresponds all together. And I'm just using some glue to cut down my die, to paste down my die cut. Now this is very important, you have to use double-sided tape because you need that lift on the card. So double-sided foam, just to lift this up so that when the easel card is open, it does slot into this, letting it stand by itself so that a person can display your card nicely. As you can see here, I will show you where you will put it, and I did trim it down just a little bit on the edges so that you do get that white border around it. It's not exactly 6x3, I did just take a tiny sliver off the top and the side. Now I did crumple my paper a bit, but it doesn't really matter once it's stuck down because the paper is so textured you won't be able to see it. And I'm just affixing this in the right spot at the bottom, and you can see that's where I left the white border, and I did use my decorative punch on the edges. And this is how it's going to work. As you can see, it will fit into that little slot at the bottom and stand up perfectly. Now to affix the top, as you can see, I've added my little ribbon, my mint green. I do love green very much, and I think it adds just a little bit of extra color. Now I'm going to show you how to affix the top. It's very important that you open your card and you apply glue only to the bottom edge. So you add it to that 3x6 space just at the bottom where you did the fold. You do not want to put the glue near the top, otherwise it will not be an easel card anymore. So, and this fix has to be also very strong glue. Make sure you use something with a little bit of hold. Now because both the topper and the card are 6x6, you want to make sure to line this up perfectly and get the edges just right. And if you cut it correctly, it should fit perfectly onto your card. And that's the front of my card, just pressing it down to make sure I get a good hold. And this is where I decided to add a little bit of gold around the edges. And as you can see, this is the card when it's folded flat and fitting in the envelope. Then once the person takes it out, they'll be able to slot it in, and you can write your message over here and it will be hidden away because as you slot it in, it'll be a freestanding card like this. And easy to display. Ta-da! And when you're ready to put it away, it just folds back down and you can put it back in the envelope and put it away. And here is the finished card. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to visit downandcraft.ie or the links below. We have an Instagram and a Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.